Chale. Let us start. Benefits of low-level language. This is what we did yesterday. Today, let us start with what is a translator. So, translator is a program that turns source code written in a programming language into the form that can be used by the computer. So, it is a computer program that turns the source code either in high level language or low level language into the form which is machine language, a form understood by the computer. This is the translator. Three different types of translators are assembler, which assembles low-level language, means assembly language program into machine language. And then we have got compiler, and third one is interpreter. So for each type of translator, you might be asked that what sort of program it turns into machine language. So assembler basically is a computer program that translates program written in low-level language into machine language. So low-level language to machine language. So this might be a separate question or a question mixed with it, that what sort of programs these translators turn into machine language. So high level language into machine language, and interpreter is basically, see, the thing is that compiler compiles a program and turns it into machine language, and it does not execute it. Whereas an interpreter is a computer program that directly executes instructions. So it turns, here we will say executes instructions of high level language without previously compiling them, without previously compiling them into machine code. So this is something which you need to properly understand, that other forms turn into machine code where this interpreter does not. It just executes it directly. Now, what is a syntax error? Now, syntax, every statement written in a computer programming language is basically having a syntax. Syntax as in the grammar. ठीक है, the grammar. तो grammar जो है वो हर language की grammar होती है and we need to follow it. If we don't follow it, it is said to be the syntax error. The program that we write should follow or must follow the syntax of that particular programming language. So they might ask, what is a syntax error? So syntax error is error in the grammar of a program when we write the source code and it is found out by the translator. All right. And then there are logic errors. Logic error is where the program does not do what the programmer wanted it to do. Means programmer works properly, a program works properly, बंद नहीं होता, error नहीं आता, लेकिन जो उसका result है, that doesn't work. That is not what you expected. So such type of errors where the program works properly but the results are not as per the expectation are basically logic error. So what is syntax error? Syntax error is the error. Computer does not know what you have written. मैं अगर गलत उर्दू बोलूं, गलत अंग्रेजी बोलूं, गलत पढ़ाऊं तो that is syntax error. लेकिन अगर मैं आपको सही पढ़ा रहा हूं, आपको समझ नहीं आ रहा तो वो लॉजिक एरर है. ठीक है, क्योंकि मैं तो पढ़ा रहा हूं. Alright, so syntax error. So syntax error is basically an error where a program statement does not an error in source code where a program statement does not obey the rules of programming language. The syntactical or grammar rules of the high level or low level language. And then logic error. Program is executing but showing results which were or which are, I would say, unexpected. It means that the program that you have written, you might have written the proper syntax, but the output is not proper. So that is said to be logic error. So now what the compiler does when there is an error, let's say syntax error. So let's do it together with syntax error. When compiler finds a syntax error, no machine code is produced. All right. The error is added to the list of errors. As I said yesterday, that compiler just starts putting all the errors on the screen and it goes further. It doesn't stop at all. So the error is shown on screen. All right. All right. Then what an interpreter do when the syntax error is found? So we will be like, when interpreter finds a syntax error, the programmer is alerted or notified, and interpretation stops at that point. The error is then corrected by the programmer and the interpretation and then interpretation continues. Interpretation. All right. And this keeps repeating until the task is completed. Now, let's make this give 3 advantages of using compiler rather than interpreter. This is a common question. Give 3 examples of or maybe more. It's kind of that. Okay, what is the advantage? Oh, sorry, disadvantage and advantage. All right. So advantages of using compiler. Let's write few of the advantages. Sir, can you scroll back till the interpreter? Yes, Peter. I can scroll back. All right. Advantages of using compiler and disadvantages of using compiler rather than interpreter. I told you yesterday that compiler will be compared with the interpreter. Compiler कभी भी assembler के साथ या assembler interpreter या compiler के साथ compare नहीं होगा बेटे. All right. So advantages of using compiler against interpreter and disadvantages of using compiler against interpreter. So let's advantages of using compiler rather than an interpreter. So advantages are what? Less memory is required at the time of execution. Remember, when it is turning a program into machine code, it requires a lot of memory. But once the program is in machine form, we do not require any memory other than the program itself. So less memory is required when the program is run because the compiler is not held in the main memory. Compiler is now off. I told you that once the machine code is produced, neither the compiler or the source code is required because the source code is now finished. So less memory. Number 2, Program is only compiled once, and unlike interpreter, it works fast. So what interpreter does? It recompiles, re-executes, recompiles, re-execute every single line of code. But in compiler, more than half of the work is already completed. So it is just being executed. So that brings us to the third point, and program execution is faster. Program execution is faster. These are the advantages. Now disadvantages. We know about it. Yesterday we discussed about it. Compilation process requires a lot of memory. More memory is required during compilation because the machine code program is held in the main memory as well as the high level language program source code, the workspace, and the compiler itself. Number two, I told you that debugging is tougher. Errors take longer to find as the whole program needs to be edited and recompiled after every error. And when there is one error encountered, system goes and goes and goes on. It does not stop. Then let's say program in compilation take longer to develop as the program needs to be restarted from the beginning when error is found rather than continuing like in interpreter from the point it got stopped at. जब इंटरप्रेटर में कोई एरर आता है तो सिस्टम वहां रुक जाता है, आप उस एरर को सही करें और वहां से आगे चल पड़े. यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि every time there is an error, system starts compilation again. So overall development time is high. So these are few things that you need to know. Now let's solve few of the questions. So I want to revise these definitions in a fast mode before we go any further. So what is a program? A A program is a list of instructions that enable a computer to perform a specific task. Every computer program, the task, process, program, uh, what do we call it, job, they all are synonyms. Program, it's a list of instructions when followed by the computer. Portable. Portable means you write one single high-level language program and you can recompile and execute over different processors. Problem solving. We have a problem, we write source code for it, computer solves it. Translation. Turn it high-level and low-level program to the form which is understood by the computer, the machine code. Examples of high-level language: Visual Basic, Python, Pascal, C++, PHP, Java, etc. Examples of low-level language: it's just the assembly language. Benefits of using high-level language: easier to understand for the programmers, easier to debug because you can read it and understand it. It is in the form which is understood by you. And since it is written in English-like syntax of that particular high-level language, if someone else had written that program earlier, you can read and understand it by yourself. Machine code, it's a binary code. I did explain yesterday that machine code means you don't have to convert it to the form. It is finally converted. It is in binary. When it is taken by the processor understands it. So assembly language, it is a low-level programming language that requires to be translated into machine code by the assembler. And remember that assembly language is machine dependent. What is machine dependent? Means the processor for which this assembly is made only over that processor, and processors alike can execute this assembly language code. Every producer of the processor, when invents a processor, they also invent the assembly language for that processor. अगर आप किसी भी प्रोसेसर से बेनिफिट उठाना चाहते हैं तो आपको उस वाले प्रोसेसर की असेंबली लैंग्वेज सीखनी पड़ती है. बेनिफिट्स क्या हैं? बेनिफिट्स ये हैं कि वो फर्दर और लो लेवल लैंग्वेज जो है वो डिवाइड नहीं होती, वो उस फॉर्म में है, फास्टेस्ट है, सबसे छोटी है, कम मेमोरी लेती है, प्रोसेसर उसको डायरेक्टली अंडरस्टैंड करता है, फास्ट कोड होता है. ट्रांसलेटर उन प्रोग्राम्स को कहते हैं जो सोर्स कोड को, चाहे वो हाई लेवल लैंग्वेज में हो, लो लेवल लैंग्वेज में, मशीन कोड में टर्न करता है. तो असेंबलर जो है वो लो लेवल लैंग्वेज को मशीन कोड में टर्न करता है, असेंबली लैंग्वेज कोड को. कंपाइलर जो है वो टर्न करता है हाई लेवल लैंग्वेज के कोड को, लेकिन इंटरप्टर टर्न नहीं करता, वो वहीं पे कंपाइल करके हर स्टेटमेंट को उधर ही एग्जीक्यूट करता है, वो खुद एग्जीक्यूट करता है, जबकि असेंबलर और कंपाइलर एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर सकते. लेकिन वो एक आउटपुट जनरेट कर देते हैं जो कि एग्जीक्यूटेबल फाइल होती है. इंटरप्टर वो नहीं करता, खुद प्रोसेसर बना हुआ होता है, क्योंकि वो खुद उस स्टेटमेंट को समझ रहा होता है और एग्जीक्यूट कर रहा होता है. इस वजह से हम इसको वर्चुअल मशीन भी बोलते हैं या इम्यूलेटर भी बोलते हैं. मीन्स ऐसा प्रोग्राम जो किसी हार्डवेयर को मिमिक कर रहा है, खुद है नहीं वो. सिंटैक्स एरर क्या होता है? आपने कोई चीज गलत लिख दी जो उस लैंग्वेज में उस तरीके से लिखी नहीं जाती. ये ऐसे ही जैसे आप उर्दू, अंग्रेजी या सिंधी बोलते हैं, ग्रामर का गलत इस्तेमाल करें तो अगले को समझ नहीं आएगा. लॉजिक एरर क्या होता है? लॉजिक एरर होता है कि जब आपका प्रोग्राम सही लिखा हुआ है, नहीं कि सिंटैक्स सही, लेकिन वो रिजल्ट प्रोड्यूस सही नहीं कर रहा. क्यों? हो सकता है आपने मल्टीप्लिकेशन की जगह डिवाइड डाल दिया, प्लस की जगह माइनस डाल दिया. जी जनाब, कैन यू स्क्रॉल अप अ बिट प्लीज? यस, आई कैन स्क्रॉल अप. सो सिंटैक्स एरर जब कंपाइलर में आता है तो कंपाइलर जो है वो रुकता नहीं, वो दिखाता है स्क्रीन पर सिंटैक्स एरर, वो आगे चला जाता है. जब वो पूरा सोर्स कोड पढ़ लेता है तो आपके पास इतने सारे एरर स्क्रीन पे होते हैं, और आप वापस जो है सिंटैक्स एरर को सही करें, दोबारा कंपाइलेशन शुरू. इंटरप्टर क्या करता है? अगर सिंटैक्स एरर आ गया वहीं रुक जाता है, कहता है भाई ये सही नहीं, इसको सही करें. आप सही करते हैं, वहीं से आगे चल पड़ता है. तो डेवलपमेंट टाइम जो है ना कंपाइलर वाले बेस्ड लैंग्वेजेस के लिए ज्यादा होता है, इंटरप्टर के लिए डेवलपमेंट टाइम कम होता है, क्योंकि इसमें वो हैसल नहीं होती कि बार बार रीकंपाइल करें. एडवांटेजेस ऑफ यूजिंग कंपाइलर, एक बार सोर्स कोड बन जाता है वो मेमोरी में जब आता है तो कम जगह लेता है, फास्टर चलता है। और बस डिसएडवांटेजेस में क्या था, डिसएडवांटेजेस में ये कि जब कंपाइलेशन होती है तो बहुत सारी मेमोरी हंग्री जगह लेता है, डिबगिंग भी टफ हो जाती है इसके अंदर, और जब भी एरर आता है आपको दोबारा स्टार्ट करना पड़ता है। तो ये हो गई छोटी सी कहानी। अब आपको हम पास पेपर के क्वेश्चंस करवा दें, फिर हमारे ये टॉपिक माशाल्लाह से एंड हो जाएगा। ठीक हो गया, जरा होल्ड करेंगे। थोड़ा सा होल्ड कीजिए। Now you can see, let's solve these questions in backward manner, latest to oldest. All right, David compiles a program. When he has completed it, explain two benefits of the compilation of the program. So I'm just writing in short sentences. You would have to actually write at least 2 sentences for it. So benefit 1, compiled program runs faster. Runs as in executes faster. And benefit 2, takes less memory space. All right. 3 features of an interpreter: takes less space, debugging is easier, executes program itself. Now, 3 examples of different types of codes. Now you can see that first one is 101010. So this is certainly the machine code. This is English like. So this is high level. This is, you can see easily, this is low level code, which is assembly language. Explain 2 reasons why a computer programmer may choose to write program in high level language. Easier to remember and understand the code. You would have to write a bit longer sentences. Easier to remember, understand the code. Programmer can read and edit another programmer's code. And there was one more. For 4 marks के लिए इतना बहुत होता है. जी 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 जी. आप एक सेंटेंस बेटे लें और उसको लिखें. Do not get deceived by the number of lines. This is the rule. If the question is of 2 marks, you will be given 4 marks. So, जैसे मैंने लिखा, easier to remember, आप इसको complete कर दें. Easier to remember the code that you have written. Easier to understand the code when you look at it at the later time. Things like that. So that is good enough. All right. So this is a technical paper. It is not a theoretical paper. So you don't have to worry about the number of sentences or the length of the answer. The thing is that you have to write to the point. All right. Achha, sir, your website from notes is opening, but the folder are not opening. It can be reached. Yes, we are having issues. The thing is that there is Amazon web server, and there are problems with that web server. Our data is parked over Amazon web server. They are not accessible nowadays due to some complications. So as soon as that complication is resolved, website and app will start working. So we have to wait a little. We are trying. Now, many programmers write computer programs in high-level language. The program needs to be translated into machine code, whatever. There's state 2 types of translators. So you may go like, you don't have to write a lot. Compiler, interpreter, or you may write assembler. It's up to you. Okay. You see, almost we have to write the same as the notes that we have just jotted down. Dimitri is writing a computer program in high-level language. He needs to send just the machine code of the program. So machine code can be produced either by the compiler or the assembler, but for high level it is compiler, for low level it is assembler. Let's see further. He needs to send just the machine code for the program to his friend. Electronically, it is important that the program is executed as quickly as possible. Identify which translator must be suitable. So you may write for assembly language, assembler, or compiler. It's up to you. All right. So if I am at your place, I will be like that Dimitri, since he needs to send the machine code and he has written the program in high level language, you would have to mention it. Then a compiler suits because compiler compiles the program and generates the executable file. That executable file can be sent. It is in the machine code. That's it. So you have to explain your choice. All right. Then translators such as compiler and interpreter are used when writing and running computer program. Describe how a compiler and interpreter translates a computer program. Now this is 6 marks. This is 6 marks. So you would have to tell 3 marks for compiler, 3 marks for interpreter. Compiler, it takes the whole source code, checks it for errors, generates the executable file, and that executable file can then be distributed among people and they can execute it, because once the executable file is made, neither the source code nor the compiler is required. Then interpreter. You have to have source code as well as the interpreter, because interpreter reads one source code line, then translates and then executes it. It does not pre-compile and generate the executable file. So it takes one line, converts it, executes. It takes second line, converts it and executes. This is what you have to write over here. This is as in how compiler works, how interpreter works. This is what we have written in notes as well. Now this is fun question. And this is 6 marks as well. Now it says that what is true, what is false. Assembly language uses mnemonics. Now, these, if you see, yeah. These 3-letter commands in low-level language, these, INP, STA, LDA, these are said to be mnemonics. Mnemonics. All right, this M is silent. Mnemonics. These are also called instructions. All right, so these are what? Mnemonics. We don't call it mnemonics. We call it mnemonics. Short commands. And sometimes this is also called pseudocode. Pseudo commands. Because these are not full-fledged high-level language commands, we also call them pseudo commands, mnemonics or instructions. Assembly language use mnemonics. True. Assembly language program do not need a translator. False. They need assemblers. Assembly language is a low level. True. Assembly language is specific to the computer hardware. True. I told you that it is hardware dependent. The term is hardware dependent. This high level language is independent. You take a high level language over any processor and you can compile for that processor. But I told you that assembly language is specific to that one particular type of processors where it was converted into machine code. All right, and every processor family could have a different sort of assembly language. So it is extremely tied up for that particular sort of processor. If you change the processor, not every assembly language is made for every processor. Okay, assembly language is machine code. No. Assembly language, when it is converted with the help of assembler, then it becomes a machine code. So it is low level but not machine code. Assembly language is often used to create drivers. Yes, that's true. I told you that when we create software, which are, if you do remember, we also wrote it, that when we need to write programs directly for the hardware, we prefer machine code. So गेम कोर्स, गेम्स की जो कोर होती है वो असेंबली में बनती है, डिवाइस ड्राइवर असेंबली में बनते हैं. मैंने आपको कल एक प्रिंटर की एग्जांपल भी दी थी कि समवन वुड हैव made a new type of printer, so they will create a driver for that printer, but that driver will be written in assembly language. So now Salma writes the following 4 answers in her computer science examination. State which computer terms she is describing. It is a signal. Signal means interrupt. We will discuss interrupt when we study operating system. It takes source code written in high level language and translated into machine. High level language into machine code, that is compiler. And it says that it translates the whole source code at once, that is compiler. The part of the central processing unit that carries the calculation is ALU. When data is transmitted, if an error is detected in the data received, signal is sent ARQ. We will discuss. So because of this particular one statement, we put this question over here. Let's move on. It says the programmers can use a high-level language to write a computer program. Explain what is meant by high-level language. And from the explanations of what is a high-level language, it is basically the definition of the program. High-level language is a program which is in English-like form. When we write it, it becomes easy for us to write programs. And it is easier for others to understand that program. Computer requires these high-level languages to be converted to the machine code. That is what the high-level language is. A program written in a high-level language is translated into machine code. So this is compiler. This is so that it can be processed by the computer. Name 2 types of translator that can be used: interpreter and compiler. Describe how your answer in part B translates this program. Which program? Describe how your answer to part B. Okay, I think they might have written something, so you will say that compiler takes the whole program and converts it to the machine code, whereas interpreter will take one source code line and translate it to its machine form, but executes it itself. We will have to look into this question. Let's just mark it. We will find the paper and we will see what we have to actually do with it. What sort of, describe how your answer part will translate this program. We would have to see at what sort of program they have written. Let's first finish it and we will look into it. Now, 4 descriptions about the compiler interpreter are shown. Draw lines. Okay. It is difficult to debug compiler. The speed of execution of program of loops is slower. Interpreter. It produces fast executable code. Compiler. It is easier to debug. Interpreter. That is very easy. So you see that things are redundant. They are being repeated again and again and again and again. Okay. Now, this is a fun question as well. Translate the source code into machine code all at once. Compiler. Produces an executable file in machine code. Compiler. Executes high-level language program one instruction at a time. Interpreter. Once translated, the translator does not need to be present. Compiler. An executable file is produced. Compiler. So you see, most of it belongs to compiler. You can remember these statements. You can learn these statements as well to write the answer for the definitions if you like to. So these are perfect statements. So if someone says that what is a compiler, so you might say it translates the source code into machine code all at once. It produces an executable file. Once translated, translator does not need to be present at the program, or an executable file is produced. So you can use these statements for your explanation in exam as well. Anyways, so complete the following by writing either compiler, interpreter, or assembler. Translate source code into object code. Now, Object code for you at O level is a synonym for machine code. Object code for you is basically a synonym to machine code. So translate source code into object code, compiler. Translate low-level language into machine code, assembler. It stops the execution of program as soon as it encounters an error, interpreter. ठीक हो गया. अब ये कहता है 3 तरह के प्रोग्राम हैं. Study the following 3 sections of the code. So this is machine code. This is low-level language. This is high-level language. Now you can understand it easily. Identify using A, B, or C which of the above is an example of assembly code high level. So assembly code is B. High level code is C. Machine code is obviously A. Give benefits of writing program in high level language, low level language. You remember this, we just did it. Okay, this is fun course. 5 statements about interpreters and compilers are shown in the table below. Creates an executable file that runs directly over the computer. Compiler more likely to crash the computer. I told you yesterday, since compiler produces a self-independent executable file, if that file has an error while the program is being executed, since the program is being executed over the processor directly, program hangs, processor hangs, computer crashes. Compile. Easier to debug. These are the terms associated. So if you like to read further, it says that easier to debug since each line of code is analyzed and checked before being executed. Slow speed interpreter. It is more difficult to modify executable file. Compiler. Alright, so these sentences worthy of learning. They're worth it. So learn them if you like to and use them as your explanation in exam. Another fun question. It says 5 statements for compiler and interpreter. Takes one line at a time. Interpreter. Generates an error report at the end. Compiler. Stops translation as soon as there is an error. Interpreter. Slow speed. Interpreter. Translate entire program in one go. Compiler. See? That's easy. Which of the pieces of the code is written in high level? High level is this, high level language. This is low level language. So mnemonic. Give one benefit, high level, give one benefit, low level. High level language can be compiled and interpreted. Give 2 differences between compiler and interpreter. We know it. So the above code is example of high level language. Certainly yes. Give 2 features of high level language. You have given it. The code is to be interpreted rather than compiled. Give 1 difference between these 2 methods. We know it. Compiler and interpreter translate high level language. Give 2 differences between compiler and interpreter. Done. Programs can be written using high level or low level language. Give 1 advantages of using each method. Done. Give 2 advantages of using high level languages. Done. Give 2 differences between high level and low level. Done. Give 2 benefits of using high level language. Done. State 1 type of program that would be written in low level language. Device drivers, operating systems. All right, mind it. Okay, that's about it. So see, it's an easy topic, although there is a lot of theory attached to it, but I tried myself to make it very clear कि ये theory जो है वो कैसे काम करेगी. ठीक है, मैंने उसको जितना आपके साथ relate करके पढ़ा सकता था मैंने पढ़ाया. ये मैं आपको जो है वो भेज दूंगा फाइल आज. ठीक है, so ये high level and low level languages complete हो गया. ठीक है.